Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as
And welcome to this, what day is it? Friday edition of Pucks Across Borders World Junior Preview. I don't think we've ever done a World Junior show before, Andre, have we?
No, we skipped it last year.
We skipped it last year. Tis this season. In Canada, this is a huge deal. In America, it should be a huge deal. It's really good hockey, and if you're a hockey fan, I know Canada, U.S. play on New Year's Eve, and we're going to get into the rosters and the talent and all that good stuff. With me, as always, my guy Andre. Good to see you, Andre. How we feeling on a Friday afternoon?
Feeling pretty good. Ready for the weekend, ready for the holidays, ready to talk about USA repeating,
Yeah, you're all about, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think, I just look at you as Andre. I don't really, I don't consider you American. I just consider you, one of my own. And I forget now we got the rival on the other side of the screen. And with us, joining us today, super excited, Lucas from the Hockey Writers, Vancouver Canucks writer over at the Hockey Writers. Lucas, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. The preliminaries have started. Of course, Maple Leaf prospect Easton Cowan with the hat trick in the what do you call it? Not
Pre-tournament
exhibition games. Doesn't matter, but still, as a Maple Leaf fan, you got to have some pride in your guy. They beat Sweden last night, and the tournament officially gets underway on Boxing Day. So we're gonna get into the rosters, get into some predictions, some previews. I'll just be straight up, you guys who watch the show, and we already have people joining us live, appreciate you. I'll just be honest, because Andre, we are here. We tried to live our lives with integrity and honesty on the Pucks Across Borders show. And I'm way over my head with the World Juniors, man. I'm bringing on you and Lucas for a reason. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys all have to say. Lucas, we'll start with you, man. We'll get into the rosters in a little bit here, but what are some storylines that we're looking at? Of course, if you're a Canada fan, then you're rooting on Canada. If you're an American fan, rooting on the States, Sweden fan, et cetera, et cetera. But beyond just, rooting for your country, what's some storylines that you're looking forward to as the World Juniors gets closer?
Well, I think the biggest storyline is, can the USA go back to back? Can they win this thing again? And they have the talent and they have the roster to potentially walk off Canada in their own barn. And as another Canadian, that hurts. That would hurt. But they definitely have the talent again to win this gold again. Last year, that their team couldn't have come together at the right point. They had the best players from the 04 age group, the best players from the 05 age group just come together and wreck shop. The gold medal game, I'd say, was definitely close against Sweden, but it kind of looked like they didn't even break a sweat to go on to that gold medal. They were the favorites, and they waltzed their way all the way through to the gold medal game. And Sweden was a tough opponent, but they ended up taking care of business. And this year, they lose a lot of players just to overaging from the 04 age group. Their captain from last year, Rutger McGroarty's not there anymore. He's off in the AHL. Seamus Casey's in the AHL. All those players are now playing pro hockey. So now it's up to the 05 age group. I was going to say Will Smith. He's not even there because he's in the NHL with San Jose. your Gabe Perreaults, your Ryan Leonards, who was just named captain today, Oliver Moore, Zeev Buyam. Those are going to be the guys. Those are the leaders of this team this year. So it's on their shoulders, and they got some good backup with another good group of 06 players with like Cole Eiserman, the goal scorer from Boston University. James Haggins might go first overall from Boston College. He's a great player as well. So USA definitely has the legs this year to maybe go for another run at this thing.
And while we're talking about that, and I mean, we'll dive deeper into the roster in a little bit, but I mean, once again, the little I do know, Trey Augustine is probably the best goalie in the tournament, right? And like these tournaments, like every other, like the playoffs, like the Olympics, like the Four Nations that we're going to see in a couple months' time, a lot of these tournaments do come down to the hot goalie at the right time. If the U.S. do repeat, is it largely because Trey is just having the tournament of his life?
You know, it's funny you say that. I was talking with some friends, and I said to them, I think Trey Augustine scares me the most out of any player on the USA team.
Yeah.
He scares me the most, and it's like what you said before. It's the hot goaltending. This guy has been a proven stud for this group, for this age group, since this guy was at the World Junior. This guy was their starting goalie for Team USA back in 2023 before he was even drafted. That's how good they knew he was going to be, and that's how good he has developed into be. That's how good he is. He's turned into over his years at Michigan State. He's developed into an incredibly useful goaltender and a guy that you can rely on in all these situations. Detroit might not be looking too good right now, but they got some help coming in the crease in a few years. They got Sebastian Cossa in the AHL. Trey Augustine's right behind him. That could be the duo for the next 10 years with that team. So I really, really like Trey Augustine, and I really think that he's going to be the most frightening player for this American team.
It's so ironic that he got drafted to the Red Wings, just considering their goaltending's just been a circus all year long. It's so funny that he's over there. But Andre, we'll go to you, bro. And maybe it is just America, since you are my favorite self-centered American. Is there any storylines you're looking to as the World Juniors gets closer?
Yeah, my storyline actually has nothing to do with America, Canada, or North America.
I'm so proud of you.
Entire continent. Yeah, I'm growing. I'm looking at Sweden, particularly Victor Eklund, winger for them, getting a lot of draft buzz lately. Projected top 10 pick right now. Sweden has a pretty good roster. He's probably the star on that team. I've been really looking at him lately to maybe, push himself into the upper echelon for the draft conversation. If he has a really good tournament, obviously that's a team, like Lucas just said, they were in the finals last year. They like 6-2 final. It looks bad. It wasn't a 6-2 game. It was a lot tighter than that. Could he take Sweden all the way? 1, 2, can he draft or launch himself to the top of that draft conversation? Because, he's going to have James Higgins right there. He's going to have Matthew Schaefer right there, like other guys, direct competition. And he can, say, I'm with the big boys, even though he's 5'11". I'm with the big boys. I can do this. So that's the thing that intrigued me the most when I was looking at the rosters, looking at the teams, breaking down potential paths. Him in Sweden in particular, kind of a dark horse outside of, the obvious USA-Canada rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's the interesting thing. Like, I know for the women's, whether it's the Olympics or the World Championships, it's just Canada and the U.S. every single year. And I think that's what makes the World Junior so special, is that teams like Sweden, Finland, not so much this year, but in the past, Finland as well. Obviously, Russia, unfortunately, they're not playing, obviously, due to world events. But this tournament always has at least one of those dark horse teams that can give, I mean, let's just call it what it is, right, Lucas? Like Canada last year. Admittedly, Canada's roster last year was one of the weakest, quote unquote, that they've had in a while. But to still lose to Czechia in the quarterfinals is just not what you expect from a World Juniors Canadian roster. All right, moving on. we'll just actually dive into the Canadian roster here. Lucas, we'll start with you on this one. So for Team Canada, it does feel like, and just from the people that I've been listening to, from the content that I've been reading, it feels like America, Canada, Sweden. You have Canada, America, 1, 2, whatever order you want to put it, right? Some people are having Canada 1, USA 2. Some people have an America 1, US or Canada 2. It doesn't really matter which way you rank them, but we're going to rank them because we're Canadians, we're Americans, and we're going to talk about it. Looking at this Canadian roster, how much deeper is it than last year? And how is it Canada 1, America 2, or is it just kind of too close to call? How do you feel about it?
I think it's too close to call at the moment, but the reason first question was like, oh, do they have more depth? They have 10 times more depth than they did last time around. They got players from they got players who have been drafted, and then you have top players that haven't been drafted because they can't yet. You know, they got players on their team that are going to be top 5 picks this year, and then one that's going to be potentially a first overall pick in 2026. Like, that's how deep Canada's roster goes, and that's how deep their depth is. And so they just have such a better roster than last year's. Even heading into last year's, I go, these are some good players, but I don't see it. And clearly they proved us to be right. But they have the horses this year to just roll those 4 lines, just roll lines. You even looked at last night's game, even though it was an exhibition game against Switzerland. They definitely towards in the second and third period sort of took their foot off the gas, but you can definitely tell when they scored those 3 goals in about like 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes, they really just put their foot on the gas and was like, we are taking over this game, and you are not even going to sniff anywhere close to our, that you're not even going to come close to us. So
right.
Canada has that ability this year. I don't even know if they had that last year, to just take over a game, to just take it over and just push the other team out of the game before they even had a chance to really wake up. So I feel a lot more confident in this Canadian team than I did in previous years. Are they ready to face USA? I honestly think I can't answer that question until New Year's Eve, when we get our patented Canada-USA New Year's Eve game, which has become one of the best traditions as a Canadian hockey fan, is watching that game. Canada always has a game, but have it against the USA, it's so much sweeter. That was actually, for a personal story, that was my first ever World Junior game that I ever watched, was 2009 New Year's Eve, December 31st, when Canada beat USA in a shootout. And one of the craziest games I've ever seen, with dozens of NHL draft picks or NHL players that are now prime veterans because I'm old. But so do they have the horses to run with USA? That question can't really be answered in my books yet until New Year's Eve. We'll have a much better understanding until that day comes.
Yeah, and I mean, so to kind of go back to the Trey Augustine, of it all, it feels like, which, if you follow the NHL and the, Olympic projections and the whole conversation with the 4 nations that we've had over the last year, this is a common theme in Canadian hockey right now, is who is playing net for us. Specifically, how does the goaltending match up right now? Because it's been, we've said it numerous times already, Trey Augustine, best goaltender in the tournament, maybe the best player at his position in the tournament. Where does the Canadian goaltending stand up to the rest of the tournament? And before you answer that, I apologize, Andre. Our guy Brady is in the chat, a Vancouver Canucks fan out in BC, and he's asking, who's the new guy? This is Lucas. He actually covers the Vancouver Canucks for the Hockey Writers, Brady. So There, you don't have to deal with my Leaf fandom. You have one of your own here with you today. So back to the question, Lucas. Where does the Canadian goaltending stand up to the rest of the tournament?
Well, before I answer that, I'm going to piss off Brady even more than I already have because I do reside in Toronto. I am a Leaf fan. That covers So I can only assume that the comment section is going to get even worse than it already is. But
a Leaf fan covering the Canucks, Brady. How does that feel? How does that?
It, honestly,
I digress. But to answer your main question about if the good guy, thank you, Brady. Does the Canadian goaltending stack up against Trey Augustine? Right now, no, it does not. That does not mean that the Canadian goaltenders are bad players. Carter George is a second-round pick from this past year. Carson Bjarnason, a recent second-round pick from 2023. Bjarnason was somewhere in the range between 10 and 15 picks after Augustine, but I still don't see him as up to Augustine's level. I probably just hold Augustine in a very, very high regard. But those two goaltenders, I don't feel on their own stack up against Augustine. But here's what's going to happen is Dave Cameron, the Team Canada coach, has said, we have an open battle in the crease. It's up for grabs. And they brought third goalie, Jack Ivankovic, in as well to be the third option. And he's going to be a first-round pick potentially this year and is looked at as the next big goalie in Canadian hockey. But as the youngest player, he's probably going to be reserved to the third spot, unless maybe he takes it away. Because there was a great quote that Dave Cameron said, which was we don't look at age groups, we look at hockey players. Or sorry, we don't look at birthdays, we look at hockey players. Basically saying, I don't care how old you are, if you can take a spot, you're going to earn it. So Augustine's already cemented himself in the USA spot. That's already a given. But Canada at this rate needs to figure out who their starting goalie is going to be. Carter George played 2 periods yesterday, looked pretty well, didn't give up a goal. Bjarnason played the 3rd period, gave up a goal. Canada probably wasn't trying. They were up like 6-0 by the time he got in. They probably weren't playing their best. So they do have options. It's not like there's like I don't even know who's going to stop the puck. They got some options. Those were 2 guys who were taken pretty high in the NHL draft. One to Philadelphia and the other to Los Angeles. So they can stack up. They're in the running, but I don't think they're there yet with Augustine. They're not. They're close to him. They're catching up, but they're still behind.
Yeah, and I mean there is something to be said with not having your guy is one thing, but having a competition in the crease with good goaltenders, there is something to be said for that, right? Is you're kind of pushing each other. If they were just all bad and you had 3 bad goalies competing for a spot, that's different. But when you have multiple good goalies competing for the crease, there is something to be said for that. So Andre, in your Infinite World Junior knowledge, looking at the Canada roster comparing to the American roster, what comes to mind for you?
I mean, obviously elite talent on both sides. I don't think that's a question. That's why they're the 2 favorites. That's why they're really just hockey powerhouses internationally. But the U.S., when you look at that roster, they have 8 skaters returning from last year's winning team. So experience is a big factor, especially winning experience, because that is a team that won the gold. That is a team that knew how to stack up to the competition, play winning hockey, and come through. So obviously both sides, USA, Canada, that game is going to be a thriller because where are the edges really? They're minimal. But I think US has the slight advantage just because they've been here before. They know how to win. Obviously, you talked about the back end with Trey Augustine. That's going to be a huge edge and a head-to-head matchup, really against anyone. But the USA it's going to be hard to repeat. They're going to have targets on their back, and I think they're built for it just because of what they did last year.
Yeah, and I mean it. What was I kind of going with this? Like, it does feel like, because of what happened last year. Now, granted, this is a very different team coming from Canada than last year, but because America does have so many repeating, players coming back. It does. I don't want to say it's like the US's, tournament to lose, but it does feel like they slightly have that edge over Canada just from World Juniors experience. With that, we'll go to the American rosters. Our guy Jordan, this is great and all, but can any of them play defense against the Predators? Or it can be immediately put in the Rangers. I don't know. It might be good. It might be good getting some of these guys in for the Rangers right now. So with that, we will go to the American roster. Lucas, when it comes to the American roster, we've talked about Trey Augustine. If anybody remembers anything about anything to do with this show, they'll remember the name Trey Augustine, because we've already talked about it so much in the first 20 minutes. But with the rest of the American roster, what players kind of come to mind? And not only what players come to mind, but what players need to be at their best for the U.S. to repeat?
Well, we got some Rangers fans, I guess, in the chat, some Rangers hate. So the first person I'm going to talk about to maybe bring their spirits up a little bit is Gabe Perreault from the Boston College, who's New York Rangers prospect, drafted out of the development program. Gabriel Perreault has been one of the best players in the NCAA this year. He has been shooting the lights out, playing with a lot of his now World Junior teammates and NTDP teammates at Boston College. He's playing with Ryan Leonard, and he's playing with James Hagen, excuse me. And those guys have been just shooting the lights out for Boston College. He has been so good for that team this year. He's really taken a step up in his development. He's been a goal scorer. He's been a point scorer. He is leading that team offensively. So if he can bring that to Team USA while playing with players that he's very familiar with, since he plays with them every single weekend in the NCAA, that's a guy that I'm really paying attention for to make a big impact for Team USA.
Love it. Andre, what about you, man? Who do you look at the U.S. roster? And you can't say all of them because that's cheating. I know you think that they're all going to be, first overall draft picks, but who looking at the American roster catches your eye, and who do you think has to be at the top of their game to repeat as gold medal champions?
Yeah, there's a couple players, but I think the main one that's really turning heads, especially going into the tournament, Joey Willis. He's in the OHL right now. 17 goals already, career high. He's a Predators draft pick from a couple years ago, I believe. He's doing pretty well. I think if he can keep it up, keep his scoring transfer it from the OHL into the World Juniors, that's a lot of goals coming USA's way, because they already have a lot of top end guys ready to light the lamp. So he's one to definitely look out for. If you're talking about the back end, I think Cole Hudson probably. His brother was in this before, so he has someone he can lean on for some experience, some advice. But nice young defenseman. I think he's a Capitals prospect, and this is going to be his first tournament. So he's looking to do what his brother did last year, win it all. Obviously, supremely talented. It runs in the family. So he could be a guy that kind of flips things for USA as well.
So to move on from those two rosters, is there, and I mean, I was going to say except for Sweden, because they are, if there is any team that we all kind of believe can upset for the gold medal, I believe we would all probably say Sweden. But to give Sweden some love in this conversation too, Lucas, we'll start with you. Anybody in the tournament outside of US and Canada, player-wise, that you have your eye on, whether it's prospects or potential prospects, draft picks or potential draft picks, could be from Sweden, Czech, Switzerland, whatever you got. Who? Because let's be honest about this. All right, Boxing Day comes around, and Slovakia and Sweden are playing at 12 o'clock, right? And then USA, Germany. Thursday, which is Boxing Day, 5 o'clock p.m., Czechia and Switzerland are playing. Who are we watching in Czechia, Switzerland, Sweden, Slovakia? Those games that don't feature Canada, US. Who are we looking at that is drawing our eyes to the television?
Well, first person I wanted to just mention from Team Czechia that I think a lot of people are going to recognize the name, but they need to recognize the player, and that's Adam Juracek, first round pick of the St. Louis Blues in this last draft, brother of David Juracek, who was just traded to Minnesota. Adam is a right shot, steady defenseman. He's got a great shot itself from the blue line. Great prospect. He was at the World Juniors last year, but unfortunately he got hurt, and it actually derailed his entire season. He was done for the year when he was injured in the World Juniors, and that hurt his draft stock. And he went all the way down to 16. But now with a clean bill of health, he's playing in the OHL with Brampton. He's got a really, really good foundation there. He's been playing really well, and now here he comes to play for his home country. He's going to want some redemption from getting knocked out earlier last year. So if there's a player to look out for outside of those three that we just mentioned, I think Adam Juracek is one to really keep your eye on, because he's looking for a bit of revenge after how last year ended.
What about you, Andre? I know you mentioned Eklund from Sweden previously, but is there anyone else that you have your eye on?
Yeah, Finnish players tend to get my love. They have a 19-year-old on that team, Jesse Kiiskinen. I believe I pronounced that correctly. He's in Liga. He's on a bad HPK team, but 22 points in 26 games, 8 points in his last 10. Doing pretty big things. He's a scorer. He's a playmaker. I think he's a guy that could turn some heads in this tournament that people don't expect, especially now that he has better teammates. I'll just say it. It might present more opportunity for him to really shine.
Awesome. So before we move on, Lucas, just to kind of wrap up that conversation in a different way, besides Sweden, we're looking at Czech Republic, or I guess Czechia now. We're looking at Finland. Either of those two teams, because Finland has been historically just a very pesky team. Like, they're not necessarily deemed favorites, but they always give the big guys fits. They always have those really skilled players that if you let them hang around, they can cause some damage. Between Czechia, between Finland, and I mean, I know Slovakia has some talent. Maybe there's another team that you have in mind, but do you see either of those two teams specifically causing the upset like we saw Czechia do with Canada last year?
I really like Team Finland this year. Some of their players. So there's one player in particular that I've fallen in love with, named Kasper Halttunen, who's playing for the London Knights, a San Jose Sharks prospect. He has one of the best releases I've seen at the junior level amongst his peers. He's got just an unbelievable shot. One-timer right-handed shot, one-timer on the left boards on the power play. Keep your eyes peeled for that guy, because that guy has an unbelievable release. And he's playing in London. He's obviously got some really great players in London. He's playing with Callan. He's playing with Bonk. He's playing with Sam Dickinson. But he is a difference maker and was a difference maker on that team on their run all the way to the Memorial Cup last year. So that's a player that I really want to keep my eye on. Emil Hemming, Dallas Stars prospect. I know Mark's got to know a little bit about him, being a Dallas writer.
Yep.
I really liked Rasmus Kupalainen, who was on the Oshawa Generals last year and decided to go back to Finland to play. Minnesota Wild prospect. Konsta Helenius, Buffalo Sabres prospect. I know the Buffalo Sabres aren't doing many positive things right now, but if there's one thing to hang their hat on, Konsta Helenius is doing really, really well with Rochester this year, and that's really hard for an 18-year-old to go straight into the AHL and succeed, and he's been doing that with the Rochester Americans. So they got a good little forward group that I'm really interested in. I like some of their I like their play drivers. I like guys like the guys that are gonna go to the net, are gonna score. So I like them as an underdog. I feel like they could surprise. I could watch they're gonna get bounced and not even qualify. But I as it sits right now, I think they got some really good players. I think they could put something together. I like their roster.
All right, so this is the World Junior Preview Show. Never done one of these before. We're talking World Juniors. We appreciate the expert Lucas joining us. Appreciate it, dude. Now, the whole nature of Pucks Across Borders is we're a betting show. We talk gambling. We talk spending your hard-earned money on sports. That's what it's all about. And what better to do on the holidays at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday than gamble on some 18-year-olds? I can't think of anything better to do than that. So let's talk some betting. Before we do, I do want to give Andre the floor as well. Is there anything else, Andre, when it comes to the World Juniors that is on your mind, catches your eye, or is there anything for Lucas that you want to toss towards Lucas's way before we get into how we can make some money off of a bunch of teenagers over the holiday break?
No, I'll ask what the weather's like in Ottawa for the tournament. What's that like? But no, I have nothing else to add.
Apparently, I'm in Toronto. I'm just about 5 hours away from Ottawa. Apparently, the weather in Ottawa is like it's snowing and it's real Christmas weather, real classic. Excuse me, it's real classic Christmas and World Juniors weather. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm like 45 minutes north of Toronto, and that's what it's like out here, man. The nice fluffy snow's coming down, the vibes, the Christmas tree is on behind my computer. It's a real scene over here, Andre. I wish you could be here, but
we're getting snow. It's like very wet type.
Oh yeah,
fluffy. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk some gambling. Should we start with? Let's start with the groups. Group A, Canada, USA, Finland, Germany, Latvia. Canada is the favorite, plus 100. Slight favorite, plus 100. USA, plus 120. Finland, plus 650. Germany, plus 3,700. And Latvia, plus 10,000. Lucas, I did not warn you about this. This is my bad as a host. I did not prep you. I don't know how into gambling you are or what your knowledge is of that stuff. But really, you just got to pick. Who do you feel is going to win? If you had to kind of guess, just the pool, not the whole tournament. We're looking at the pool, which is 4 games heading into the medal rounds. Canada plus 100, USA plus 120, Finland plus 650, and then Germany and Latvia after that. Who you got winning Group A?
So not a huge gambler, but I dabble here and there. I love football Sundays. I love football Sundays and hockey Saturdays. I dabble here and there. But if I'm going to put money on it, I can't bet against my own country. I can't do it.
I love it.
Even though like I should and I shouldn't be so biased, I can't. I would put money on Canada winning that group.
I love it. My wife wishes that I dabbled. That she would love it if I just dabbled. That's her Christmas wish. Andre, what do you got, man? Is this what it's gonna be? The Canadians are picking Canada and the Americans are picking America. Is that what we're doing? Andre, Group A, USA plus 120. Tell me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. USA plus 120. I mean, got the
That's
best
good value.
in the dance. Yeah, I mean Canada plus 100 is still also good value. You're doubling your money no matter who you pick. But, best goalie in it. You're looking at a bunch of 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, whatever. And there's a group of them that have been here before that can say, hey, this is how we handle things. This is how we did this before. I like that. So Team USA plus 120. And 100% biased, Brady. You don't even need to waste your time commenting. It's 100% biased.
Okay, so for Group B, I'm not even, you know what? I'm not even going to comment on who I am going to bet because these two guys, I'm honest about it. These two guys know way more about this tournament than I do. I am going to bet Canada, but like Lucas said, it's not for me. It's for no knowledge. It's just, I'm a degenerate and I can't help myself. Moving on to Group B, I'm going to phrase this a little bit different. Sweden is minus 125. Czechia is plus 240. Slovakia is plus 550. Switzerland plus 800. Kazakhstan plus 10,000. So Sweden, I just feel like is the pick for all three of us. I'm going to assume. I'm going to go to Lucas on this one. You have a good knowledge of the Czechia roster. Czechia at plus 240. What would you put money on the possibility? Plus 240 is a good sized underdog that like the sports books are telling you that Sweden should win this one. But Czechia plus 240 to upset Sweden to win the group. Would you sprinkle a little bit on that?
I think I, at a reasonable amount of money, would feel confident in Czechia's ability to potentially win that group. Potentially win the group because Czechia, we talk about goaltending. Czechia has a very, very capable goaltender, and Michael Hrabal, who was who played recently, or sorry, who was playing this year. And he's a very competent, very capable goaltender, and I do really, really like his ability to stop pucks and be a good goaltender. We talk about goaltending, how it's important in the playoffs. In the World Juniors, it's a very, very short tournament. So whoever has the hottest goaltender is probably gonna have the most success. So if I'm gonna hedge it on anything, it would be because I really have trust in that goaltender because I just like him as a goalie, and I think that he has the ability to maybe give Czechia even more of a chance to win.
So I'm looking at the odds for the medals, and the bronze medal. I'm really curious about the odds because you look at I'm just looking. I don't see the odds to actually win the tournament. I just see silver medal and gold medal here. Are you looking at the odds on DraftKings by any chance, Andre?
I mean, yeah. What are your gold medal odds? Because I'd assume they're similar.
I don't have any. That's what I'm saying. On FanDuel, I only see silver and bronze medal. Do you have gold medal odds over there?
Yeah. I have winner, USA and Canada are tied at the top. Plus 130. Sweden's plus 600. Finland's plus 800. Czech Republic is plus 2,800. And then obviously keeps going. But
yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I just figure, we're going to pick Canada to win the gold. Andre's going to pick America to win the gold. That's just the way it is. Thanks, Brady. Appreciate you, bro, chiming in. The bronze medal I find really interesting here because Sweden, USA, Canada, plus 350 for USA to win bronze, plus 370 for Canada to win bronze, plus 370 for Finland to win bronze as well. Sweden is plus 470 to win the bronze. They're the fourth favorite to win the bronze. That surprises me because I feel like every expert that I listen to, including to you two, it kind of just defaults to Sweden being the bronze. So to me, Sweden plus 470 for bronze medal, that's seems like really good value comparing to now. I do think, USA, Canada being the favorites to win the bronze and the tournament is also just the sports books kind of protecting themselves a little bit there. But Sweden plus 470 at the bronze, that feels like a very good bet and very good value. Lucas, what do you think about that?
I would definitely take that action.
Yeah.
I'd feel very comfortable taking that action. putting down some money for Sweden to win the bronze. And I even think that Sweden even has a chance to get to the gold medal game. Like, I don't think I never want to be like locked in being like, all right, the gold medal game is going to be Canada versus USA, and then Sweden's going to automatically win the bronze. It's not how sports works. It's not how competition works. You got to play the games. But I would feel very comfortable betting was it plus 470 to win bronze for Sweden. I would definitely I'd get that.
Yeah, same question to you, Andre. Plus 470 Sweden bronze. That feels like good value. And that's not to say that they can't get to the gold medal by any means, Lucas. You're 100% right. I just think plus 470 for the third best team in the tournament. It's just for the third best team in the tournament to win the bronze to be plus 470 just feels like good value.
Yeah, especially with the way the bracket shakes out usually, or not usually, but assuming Sweden wins their Group B, assuming USA and Canada are 1 and 2 in Group A, they're playing the second place of USA Canada before the quote unquote medal games. You'd assume they lose that because we're picking USA and Canada here across the board. They're the heavy favorites. They're in the bronze medal game. They're favored over everybody else in the pool. So yeah, I think plus 470 is excellent value. Pretty much banking on them losing one game, assuming they advance. And they're gonna, if they lose that one game, it's gonna be to one of the two teams we expect to win it. Seems logical to me.
Brady, this guy.
Sorry, you said Brady's from Vancouver?
Yes, don't even get me started on this.
Well,
what do you say, Luke?
Brady, at least it's not 2011.
Dude, honestly, I know they've made it to 2 Stanley Cup finals since the Leafs won one. They lost both of them, but that doesn't matter. But Brady just throwing rocks from a glass house, man, every day on this show. I love it, though. I'm here for it. I appreciate it. So my favorite bet for this tournament, and yes, I do think that Sweden to win bronze plus 470, I think that is really good value for the third best team that most people feel is the third best team in the tournament. My favorite bet is for Sweden to win a medal, just to win a medal. Canada's minus 470 to win a medal. USA's minus 400 to win a medal. So unless you're betting an insane amount of money, there's no value for those two. But for Sweden to just win to win a medal, I gotta turn this chat off. I can't look at this. For Sweden just to win a medal, it can be gold, bronze, silver, doesn't matter. Minus 105, which is basically even money. And I think that's just a solid bet. Double your money bet for Sweden just a medal. Now, if they end up it's one of those bets that you feel kind of good and calm about, to be like, okay, Sweden, they're probably going to win bronze, but hey, maybe they upset, maybe they get. But then if they win and you didn't bet on them to win, it's like, well, at least I have them at minus 105. But yeah, looking at the odds over there, Andre, my fellow degenerate gambler, is there any bets that we haven't talked about that kind of jump out to you over there? There's not a lot to choose from that we haven't talked about, but what jumps out to you?
My only options are champion and group winner. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I will say though, for Group B, if you don't want to go with Sweden at minus 125, I kind of like Slovakia to sneak in there. I feel like they have a very, their team could either do really well or just crash and burn. There's no in between with them. Like a lot of potential, but also the floor is kind of low.
Yeah, and I mean Sweden and Czechia, like very good teams, but it's not having America and Canada in the same group, right? It does kind of leave that door open. All right, we are going to wrap up the show. Thank you to everybody watching. We really appreciate you. I did not mention this at the beginning of the show. My boy Chris is going to kill me, but Pucks Across Borders is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Promo code Sports Addict gets you 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off dozens and dozens of cards. With our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Go to firstrundcollectibles.com today. Promo code Sports Addict, 10% off your order. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. For those of you hanging out with us and have nothing else better to do on your Friday, Andre and I will be back in about 10 minutes or so, and we're going to break down these 7 games in the NHL tonight. Talk a little bit about what we saw in the NHL last night. Lucas, really appreciate you joining us, man. Check out his work at the Hockey Writers, covering the Vancouver Canucks. Thank you for joining us. Is there one last opportunity? Is there any World Juniors tidbit, something that you've been chewing on that I did not give you the opportunity to share today? Is there anything else that you want to get off your chest before we get out of here and enjoy our weekends?
Well, podcasts are all about hot takes, and I think I got a gambler's hot take right here. I don't know if this is a possibility to bet on, but top point scorer. I assume there's one prop for top point scorer in the tournament. If not now, I assume there will be in the future.
There will be in the future. All I see on here is an Easton Cowan total tournament total points. Which, by the way, Easton Cowan total tournament points over 10.5 is minus 128. Well, but there will be that market in the future for sure.
Well, here comes my hot take related to Easton Cowan. I think Easton Cowan top point scorer in the tournament.
Love it. Who would because once again I don't know enough about this to know who would be up there with him in that betting market. Who else is going to be competing for Easton Cowan or with Easton Cowan for top point getter?
As of right now, if I've already put Easton Cowan there, so I believe he'll be there. Be Easton Cowan, Gabe Perreault, Ryan Leonard, and he's one of my good. I wouldn't say a friend, but I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I'll put Callum Ritchie from Team Canada. Those four guys I'll put as top point getters in this year's tournament.
Absolutely love it. Everybody, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to First Round Collectibles. Shout out to Total Apex Sports for having us on board. We always appreciate them. Like I said, we are going to be back in about 10 minutes or so. Get a coffee, a drink, some food, go to the bathroom, do whatever you got to do over there. And Andre and I will be back in about 10 minutes or so. Lucas, appreciate you, man. Would love to have you on again in the future. And Andre, you know I appreciate you. I don't got to say it. We'll be back in a few minutes. Until then, see you next time.